My twin sister's boyfriend kissed me by mistake, and now we can't stop crossing the line. The air was thick with summer heat, and the sticky scent of spilled wine when it happened. My twin sister, Tessa, had dragged me to her boyfriend Jake's apartment for a chill night. Her words, not mine. I'd always been the shadow twin, the quieter one, the one who didn't get the guy or the spotlight. Tessa was the sun, loud, radiant, demanding attention. Jake was her latest conquest, a broad-shouldered guy with messy dark hair and a smirk that could melt ice. I didn't care much for him, or so I told myself. We were sprawled across his tiny living room, Tessa giggling on the couch with a glass of rosé, me perched on a beanbag picking at a bowl of pretzels. Jake was in the kitchen, humming some off-key tune, when Tessa's phone buzzed. She groaned, spilling wine on her shirt as she fumbled to answer it. "It's Mom." "Be right back," she slurred, stumbling toward the balcony. I rolled my eyes and sank deeper into the beanbag, the hum of the TV filling the silence. That's when Jake sauntered back in, 2 beers in hand, his eyes glassy from too many drinks. He didn't say anything, just plopped down beside me, closer than he should have, and handed me a bottle. I took it, muttering a thanks, and we sat there, the tension buzzing like a live wire. "Tessa's a riot, huh?" he said, his voice low, like he was testing something. "Yeah, she's Tessa," I replied, staring at the label on the beer. I didn't look at him. I couldn't. Then it happened. So fast I barely registered it. He leaned in, his breath hot against my cheek, and pressed his lips to mine. Hard. Hungry. Like he'd been waiting for it. My brain short-circuited. Panic. Shock. A flicker of something else I couldn't name. I shoved him back, beer splashing across the floor. "What the hell, Jake?" I hissed, wiping my mouth with the back of my hand. He blinked, dazed. Then his face crumpled into horror. "Oh, shit. Lila? I thought you were—" "Tessa," I finished, my voice trembling. "You thought I was Tessa." He raked a hand through his hair, cursing under his breath. "You're twins. And I'm drunk, okay? It was a mistake. A mistake. That's what it was supposed to be." Tessa burst back in, oblivious, ranting about Mom's latest drama, and Jake shot me a pleading look. "Don't say anything." I didn't. I couldn't. My lips still burned where his had been, and I hated myself for it. The next day, I told myself it was nothing. A drunken slip. Jake was Tessa's, not mine, and I wasn't the type to steal or feel anything for a guy like him. But then he texted me. "Can we talk? About last night?" I stared at the message for an hour, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. I should have ignored it, should have blocked him. Instead, I typed, "Fine. Where?" We met at a diner 2 towns over, a grimy little place with flickering neon signs and coffee that tasted like regret. He slid into the booth across from me, his knee brushing mine under the table. I flinched but didn't move. "I'm sorry," he started, his voice rough. "I didn't mean to. I was wasted. And you two look so damn alike." "Then why are we here?" I snapped, folding my arms. "You said your piece. We're done." He didn't answer right away. His eyes, hazel, sharper than I'd noticed before, locked onto mine, and something shifted. "I can't stop thinking about it," he admitted, barely above a whisper. "About you." My stomach dropped. "You're with Tessa, my sister." "I know." He leaned closer, his voice cracking. But it wasn't her I wanted to kiss. The words hit like a punch. I should have walked out, yelled at him, told Tessa everything. Instead, I sat there, frozen, as the air between us thickened with something dangerous. Then he reached across the table, his fingers grazing mine, and I didn't pull away. That's when it started, the line we couldn't uncross. A week later, he kissed me again, sober this time, in the back seat of his car behind an abandoned gas station. I kissed him back, hating myself but craving more. It was wrong, so wrong, but it felt like mine in a way nothing ever had. We got reckless, fast. Stolen glances at family dinners turned into late-night meetups. Tessa would ramble about Jake, how perfect he was, how they were soulmates, and I'd nod, my skin crawling with guilt, knowing I'd been with him hours before. He'd text me while she slept beside him, and I'd sneak out to meet him in shadowed parking lots or empty parks, our hands and mouths desperate, like we were racing against some inevitable crash. The first time Tessa almost caught us, we were at her place. She'd gone to shower, leaving Jake and me alone in the kitchen. He grabbed my wrist, pulled me against the counter, and kissed me so hard I tasted blood. The water shut off upstairs, and we sprang apart, my heart hammering as she bounded down in a towel, oblivious. God, you two are so quiet, she laughed. What's with the weird vibes? Nothing, I mumbled, my lips still tingling. Jake smirked into his beer, and I wanted to slap him, or kiss him again. But the close calls only fueled us. It was like the danger made it better, sharper. We'd fight about it sometimes, me screaming that we had to stop, him begging me not to leave him, but it never lasted. One night, he showed up at my apartment, soaked from the rain, and we didn't even make it past the doorway before we were tearing at each other. The guilt drowned out by the storm. It couldn't last. I knew that. But I didn't expect it to explode the way it did. Tessa's 25th birthday was a big deal. Catered food, balloons, a playlist she'd curated for weeks. She'd begged me to help set up, so I was there early, stringing lights across Jake's backyard, while he helped by sneaking touches every time she turned away. By the time guests arrived, I was a mess, jealous, furious, addicted. Halfway through the night, Tessa pulled me aside, her eyes glassy with vodka and something else. Lila, you've been weird lately. Are you mad at me? No, I lied, my chest tight. Just tired. She squinted, unconvinced, then shrugged. Okay, but you're staying over, right? Jake's driving us home. I nodded, dread pooling in my gut. Hours later, the party dwindled, and Tessa passed out on the couch, leaving Jake and me to clean up. We didn't. The second her snores filled the room, he dragged me into the bathroom, locking the door. It was frantic, sloppy, his hands under my shirt, my nails digging into his back, the mirror fogging with our breath. Then the doorknob rattled. Jake? Tessa's voice, groggy but sharp, cut through the haze. Lila, where are you guys? We froze, my pulse roaring in my ears. Jake cursed under his breath, shoving me toward the shower curtain. Hide, he mouthed. I ducked behind it, trembling, as he cracked the door open. Hey, babe, he said, too casual. Just washing dishes. Lila's, in the backyard. Silence. Then Tessa's footsteps shuffled away, and I exhaled, sliding to the floor. Jake didn't look at me, just ran a hand over his face and walked out, leaving me there, curled up in the dark. She knew. Not everything, not yet, but she knew something was off. The next morning, Tessa cornered me in the kitchen, her hair a mess, her eyes red. What's going on with you and Jake? She demanded. Nothing, I said, too fast. Why would you think that? Because he's different. You're different. And last night? She stopped, her voice breaking. I saw the way he looked at you. I wanted to confess, to scream it all out and let the pieces fall, but I couldn't. You're paranoid, I said instead, forcing a laugh. He's yours, Tess. She stared at me, searching, then nodded slowly. Okay, but if you're lying, Lila, I'll never forgive you. That should have been the end. I should have cut it off, moved away, burned every bridge. But Jake wouldn't let me. He showed up at my place that night, wild-eyed, grabbing my face like I was his lifeline. I'm leaving her, he said. I love you, Lila, not her. I laughed, bitter and broken. You don't love me. You love this, the sneaking, the thrill. No. He kissed me, desperate, bruising. It's you. It's always been you. I didn't believe him, but I let him stay. And that was my mistake. 2 weeks later, Tessa vanished. No texts, no calls, just an empty apartment and a note. I need space. Panic clawed at me, but Jake was calm. Too calm. She'll come back, he said, pulling me into his bed. She always does. But she didn't. Days turned into a week, then 2, and the guilt gnawed me raw. I started seeing her everywhere, her laugh in the wind, her shadow in the hallway. Jake got clingy, possessive, talking about us, like we were some twisted fairy tale. I was drowning, but I couldn't leave him, not yet. Then the cops showed up. They found Tessa's car abandoned by the lake, her phone dead inside. No body, no clues, just questions. They grilled Jake first, then me. When did you last see her? Were you close? Did she mention anything strange? I lied through my teeth, my hands shaking. Jake played the grieving boyfriend, but his eyes flickered to me too often. The cops didn't notice, or maybe they did. That night, he broke. What if she knew? He whispered, pacing my living room. What if she saw us and— Stop it, I snapped. She didn't know. But doubt festered. Had she seen us in the bathroom? Followed us one night? I started losing it. Nightmares of her screaming, her face in the water. Jake got worse, drinking, ranting about how we were meant to be. One night, he grabbed a knife, spinning it in his hands. If they find out we're done, he muttered. Maybe we should just— I bolted, grabbed my keys and ran, his voice chasing me into the dark. I hid at a motel, chain-smoking, waiting for the world to collapse. 3 days later, Tessa texted me. I'm fine. Needed to clear my head. Where are you? Relief crashed over me, then terror. If she was alive, what had Jake been playing at? I called her, sobbing, spilling half-truths, Jake's clinginess, my fear, nothing about the affair. She told me to come home. When I got there, Jake was gone. No note, no trace. Just an empty apartment and a single photo on the counter. Me and him, mid-kiss, snapped from a distance. Tessa stood beside it, pale, trembling. You bitch, she whispered. She'd known. Not everything, but enough. She'd staged the disappearance, watched us unravel, waited for me to crack. And Jake? He'd fled, or worse. I didn't know, I didn't care. Tessa kicked me out, and I let her. The affair was over, but the damage was eternal. I still taste him sometimes in the quiet, and I wonder if he's out there, waiting to drag me back into the madness. Months later, I got a postcard. No return address, just Jake's handwriting. You were right. It was the thrill, but I still dream of you. I burned it, but the smoke lingered, like he did. Thank you for watching. Subscribe now for more crazy love stories. You don't want to miss the next big secret.